Hi guys, welcome back for episode number 13 of the weekly playback. You might hear my air conditioning on because it is on even though it's October 15th. We've had to switch between air conditioning and heating since like mid-September. It's very strange, but yeah, today is kind of a hot day. So I have a number of games to discuss with you guys, so let's just get into it. The first I am going to discuss is Bitoku. Now I hope I've pronounced that correctly. I know it means something a little bit strange, I guess. I don't know what the word is I would want to use to describe that in French. So there are a lot of French people commenting on the name. So this is designed by Germain P. Milan. It is published by Devere Games for 1 to 4 players. And last time I talked about this game, I had only played one round of it. Well, now I have played a full game of this at 4 players and am excited to talk about this. So this is a dice worker placement game and a set collection game. So I'm actually just going to be looking at a photograph of the board when I talk about this. So one of the main comments that I've gotten when I've posted about this board game on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter is that is a super busy board. Like, you know, that seems to be like a turnoff for a lot of people. I get that, like I get it looks incredibly busy, but I swear once you start playing, like once you've thoroughly gone through the rule book, have learned the rules, like, and you know them pretty solid, like then the board will appear less busy when you start playing. So once you start playing, everything starts to make sense. The board won't look as intimidating to you. You'll know exactly where everything is. Yes, the board is filled with a lot of color. Even one of my friends who I played the game with said, yeah, he kind of wishes that there had been a little bit less on the board, that there is a lot on it. But still, he didn't have any issues with knowing where things were, whose dice were placed where. You could see all the tokens clearly, so that was not an issue. So there are various parts to the board. So how this works is, let me just show you a player board so that you can, there's a lot in this box, by the way. So a lot in this box, yeah. So I'm going to first show you an individual player board. I'm not taking out the main board. So on this individual player board, you are going to start with 3 dice here. Those 3 dice will be numbered 3, 2, and 1. Those are the dice that everyone is going to start with. And then you're going to start with your own hand of cards, and you will be trying to acquire better cards and trash the less valuable cards throughout the game. I'll explain that in a little bit. So you're going to have these 3 dice, and you are going to be having them put here. And when you play a card, that will allow you to automatically activate your die. So when you play a card, the card will give you some kind of an action. So let me just pull out some of the cards. So it'll give you either an action or a resource. So these are the starting cards. So like this, for example, will allow you to take one or the other resource if you play that. This will allow you to build a building or to take a crystal. And I'll show you where on the board, well, I'll explain where on the board that is. This will allow you to take a Mitama or a dragonfly. This will give you 1 movement point, and this will give you either a jade or a sake. So when you play a card on your board, that is automatically going to activate the die if there was a die there. So on your next turn, you could potentially place a die on the board because there are various areas where you'll want to place some dice. So the various areas where you will want to place dice are in the forest. And in the forest, there is going to be like action spaces underneath each forest. When you place a die, you can then take the action that's associated with the pips that you have on that die that you placed. So typically, the higher the number value die, the better the action you can take. And then another player cannot place a die in that same location because depending on player count, there's a certain number of spaces. So in a 4-player game, there are 3 slots for dice. So another player would not be able to place a die in that location unless they have a value equal to or higher than your die. So there are these amulets that you can earn in the game which will allow you to increase or decrease the value of your die. These amulets. You cannot change the value of the amulet. So if you get a 2-pip amulet to increase your die by 2 pips, you cannot then decide to increase it by just 1 pip. These are fairly easy to earn, I would say. I mean, at least I was earning a lot of them, but again, I didn't win the game, but I'll explain the scoring at the end. So You can then place a die on a board, and again, there are various locations you can go to. So the main actions are you are going to play cards on your own board, 3. You will always have a hand of 4 cards, and you will discard 1 and play 3 cards during the round. You will place 3 dice on the board, unless you choose to pass for some reason, but cannot think of a reason why anyone would want to do that. And then once the dice are on the board in the forest spaces, you can, I cannot remember what the term is, to cross the river and then place a die in the other section of the forest area across the river. You need to pay homage or something to the gods, so you need to decrease the value on your die by 1 pip. However, if you are at 6 pips, you decrease it all the way to 3, I believe. So there is an advantage to maybe wanting to place a die that's only 5 pips when you place it on the forest, so that when you have to decrease it, it only decreases to 4 pips. The reason being because when you bring the dice back onto your board for the next round, you will bring them back with the same values that they are on the big board. So then you will bring them back with the same exact value. So you may start with a 5 and a 4 and a 2 or something like that. So there are different areas on the board. So again, so at the bottom of the board, we have the area where you can pick up mitamas and dragonflies. These are little things that you will stick together. They kind of fit in together. So let me just show you an example. And once you get a mitama and a dragonfly together, then you get to activate everything that's on it. So this is a mitama and this is a dragonfly. You will activate them by putting them together. Once you put them together, then you can take all of the stuff that's on those 2 things, and you will put these next to your board. They don't go on your player board. At the bottom of the forest, there are also the crystals. The crystals you will be placing onto your own player boards. So the top locations are for yellow and purple crystals, which will activate at the beginning of a new round. So one person got a really good one, which let him activate 1 die immediately at the start of the next round. So he would not have to play a card in order to activate that die, which was really cool. I wish I had gotten that crystal. And when you add a crystal, that takes one of your pilgrims and activates it. So you will have pilgrims that are asleep on your board, and you want to try to activate them because you will be placing them elsewhere. And I'll get to that in a little bit as well. So let me just show you the pilgrims. So the pilgrims have 2 sides, the sleepy side and the awoken side. So on your board, you are only going to start out with 3 awoken pilgrims, and the rest will be sleeping. Wherever you see these kind of circle things, you're going to have sleepy pilgrims. So if you add a crystal there, this pilgrim then becomes awake. Why you want your crystals to wake up is because down here in your rock garden tokens are tokens which will give you end of game bonuses. So you will start out with 1 rock to start with, which will give you some kind of an end of game bonus, and for each token that you have next to it, each pilgrim you have next to it, you'll get 1 point. So if you have this rock that has 1 pilgrim here and 2 pilgrims here, you will get 3 points for whatever is on that rock. And if you have multiples of those things that are on the rock, then it will be 3 times that. So, and then some pilgrims will, some rocks will share pilgrims. So like this one, if there's a pilgrim here and a pilgrim there, they will get 2 points. So you want to awaken your pilgrims so that you can fill up your rock garden with those pilgrims. Let's see, what else is there to discuss? Let me just take a look at the board. Okay, so I talked about how you can move your dice over. Okay, so you want to move your dice over the river because once you do that, then you can pick up these cards, which are called Bitoku cards. And oh gosh, so I think these are the Bitoku. I can't remember which cards are which. So you have these cards, which are path cards. And when you pick them up from across the river, you will put them next to your board, and you are going to have a little guy who is going to be traveling along on this path. These are where set collection come in. So you will see a symbol, and if you have 1 of each kind, that's mega points at the end of the game. So you want to try and get 1 of each kind, and these are across the river. So whoever gets across the river first, there are 3 actions to choose from, 3 action slots across the river, and whoever gets there first will get to pick which one they want. They can take this card, or they can take a higher level this kind of card, like a higher level of that, and something that's got something better on it. Or they can, gosh, I can't really see. Or there's a space that allows you to do 2 different things. It's hard for me to see. Let me try to zoom in this picture so I can get a better look. So yeah, so there's a space that will let you either draw a card. It will let you, I think it says, move one of your turnips, kodamas, we call them turnips, they look like little turnips, kodamas on the board. So when you go to a forest space, you can also advance on these like little things underneath the forest space to get end of game points. So you can advance that. You can, it looks like awaken a pilgrim, I think is another one, and get a rock, it looks like, if I remember correctly the iconography. So that's one of the spaces. So one of the spaces will allow you to get this kind of card. Another space will allow you to get an advanced card of this kind, which is visible. And then the third space will allow you to do 2 different actions. So once that slot is taken up, then no one else can go there. So you may want to move a die across the river before you play like another card on your board. Like as soon as you activate one die, you may want to put it on the forest and then move it across the river in case you really want one of these cards, because again, there's only 3 spaces across the river, and they're limited. Once someone takes it, that spot is filled until the next round. At the very top of the board, you have this area like where you can move pilgrims on the path to enlightenment. So there are gates and like enlightenment paths that you can advance your pilgrims on. So again, that's another reason you may want pilgrims. You can get some mega points up there. You can get some cool actions there, some higher level amulets to, you know, advance your, increase your die pips. So yeah, so that's at the top of the board. So another reason why you will want to awaken your pilgrims. So at this point, so you are also building buildings. So one of the actions I had discussed was to build buildings. So when someone goes to a forest space with a die, when you build a building, you will put your little token on it to indicate that that building is owned by you. So when someone uses that, you will get a benefit and they will get a benefit. So you want to try and build buildings that other people want. So in addition to getting the regular forest action, depending on the pip of their the pips on their die, they will hopefully also get to use a building of yours if it matches that die number or is higher than the die number showing on those building spaces. So that is really cool. And then of course you get points for those at the end. So yeah, so there's a lot going on. I think I've covered everything at this point. I've covered rocks, I've covered crystals. Oh yeah, so at the bottom of your board is where, sorry, not the bottom, but here you will be able to place pink crystals. So pink crystals go on this part of the board, and those get activated once you, in that round, when you play a card, that's when those ones will get activated. But again, they will awaken a pilgrim for you to use. So yeah, so that is about it. When you build buildings, you will have a cost to pay. So you will remove a building from here and pay the cost that's directly below it. Oh wow, there's something on the other side. I wonder if that's a solo mode. I'd never noticed that before. I do not know why I didn't notice that. So yeah, so that is Bitoku. So yeah, we really love this game. So again, you know, the rule book takes a bit of time to go through. It's a really hefty rule book. So you will learn the basic flow of the game in the first part of the rule book, but you really need to read everything because the rest of the rule book, I can't talk today, talks about all the details on the, you know, about the forest spaces and everything that's on the board that you really need to know. So I guess that's it. So there are I believe four rounds in this game. I cannot remember exactly how many rounds. You will determine turn order based on, so there's a certain area of the board I forgot to talk about. It's where like High Priestess or something like that. I cannot remember. There's 4 spots there. If you place a die there, you will get to, take the available reward there, and then that can determine your player order. So if you place your die in the highest spot in that one section of the board, you will get to go first in the next round. So player order is determined at the end of each round. And then things reset. You like discard the last crystals if they weren't taken, the buildings, like everything resets. You get new cards out in the main area. Yeah. So again, we really like this game. We thought it, like, everything fell into place. Like, it's one of those games where it feels like every action you take matters. Like, you know, at the end of the game, if I could have just gotten one more thing, I think I could have scored a lot more points. So our scores were, at the end of this game, one person was like a runaway leader with like 145 points. And then there was the three of us. So our scores were very close together. I cannot remember the exact scores, but it was like 119, 117, and 115, something like that. If I remember correctly, I came in last. But again, if I had just gotten one more thing, like my last action was just so frustrating because like I just kept on thinking, how can I make happen what I really want to happen? Like I had, you know, a variety of things, but I really just needed one more thing of a certain kind, and I could have scored some mega points. There was just no way to make it happen with the cards in my hand. And yeah, and also when you, at the end of each round, you will get to trash a card that you actually played on your board, but it will still count towards some kind of set collection points at the end. So if you have a rock that shows you need a certain number of cards, like for example, it might show that you need a certain number of Kitsune cards, then trashed cards will still count towards that set collection. So you store the trashed cards above your board in the trashed cards area. So yeah, I mean, this game is just incredible. Like it's one of those games where there are multiple paths to victory. I would say it's a much more complex game than like Coimbra or Merv, but along the same lines where there's multiple paths to victory and you just need to kind of figure out what the best path is. There's definitely going to be variability in the game because at the beginning of the game, you only put out a certain number, you know, of things, and you know, those are going to differ each game when you shuffle them and put them out. Yeah, I really, really loved it. All of us really, really loved it. We all thought it was just a really fantastic game, and we highly recommend it. I'm trying to see if there's anything else I want to talk about. Yeah. Yeah, I did forget to talk about one thing. There are these cards, objective cards, which you can earn. So you start out the game with one objective card, and you can then, you know, get more during the game. However, if you don't complete the objective, you will lose a certain number of points. You will get the purple fish if you complete it, and you will lose however many gray fish there are if you do not complete it. So that's one of the rewards. You can get certain spaces or pick up cards. Yeah, but really great game. You know, at the end of the game, there's like all this stuff you need to score from your own board, you know, from how many buildings you own, from like the tracks that you've gone up on, like where your little turnip dude has gone. Again, let me just show you. So you have a bunch of these on the board in various areas in the forest, and they will be advancing on certain tracks to try to get some end game points. But yeah, fantastic game. I think I've covered everything now. I highly recommend it. So again, it looks very intimidating in the beginning, but you know, learn the rules really thoroughly. And you also have a player guide, which will show you the different parts of the board and give you all the iconography you need. The last video I did, I mentioned how there in the rule book, it showed certain iconography that's not in the player guide, but then I realized it's actually on the tokens themselves in the game, so you actually don't need to refer to this. So I had been mentioning how these were not in the player guide, but you don't need to worry about that. Those show on the mitamas and other things themselves, so not to worry about that. So yeah, so that is Bitoku. So if you can get your hands on this game, I would highly recommend it. I believe it will not be available in the US until late November or early December. So let me just shove this to the side before I start talking about the next game. If you have any questions about Bitoku, please feel free to leave them in the comments below, and I will do my best to answer them. We are hoping to play another game of this sometime soon. Okay. Oh, and I should probably show you like some of the resources. There's really nice resource components in this game. Everything is top-notch in this game. The board, yeah, just love it. It's really beautiful. Okay, the next game I want to talk about is the Belgian beer race. Oh no, I left these behind. I'll just leave them here. Okay. So I played the Belgian beers race, which is a 2021 game. This is designed by, I'm going to butcher the name, Michael Boutrio. I believe he's Belgian, I don't know. This is published by BYR Games for 2 to 4 players. It's a racing game. Now, I just played this yesterday at 3 players, and you know, I was so impressed. I mean, all of us were so impressed. Like, to have such a strategic racing game, and yeah, I just really love it. Just, you know, like, you don't think that, you know, racing games can be that fun for hobby board gamers, and maybe I haven't played enough, but this was very strategic. So I'm not going to pull out the big board, but I will show you a player board. It's super thematic. Like, so you have different areas of your board. You have this, which is the beers you taste. By the way, I kept on calling it the root beers race since I don't drink, but I know what kinds of effects drinking has on people, so I could still understand how well the theme and mechanics mesh together in this game, just because I know the effects of alcohol on people. So, and that will come up. So this is your tasting beers. So the more beers you taste, the more points you will get. However, you will also become more intoxicated. So you will go up on this intoxication level, and that will affect which kinds of transportation you can take between locations. So from one brewery to the next, you need to either get there by bicycle, public transportation, or hitchhiking. After a certain point, you will be too inebriated to ride the bike. So that's why there is a no bike riding thing there. However, if you are not inebriated and you want to get to another location by riding a bike, if you ride your bike for a distance of 4 or more time units, that will work off some of your alcohol and you will get to go down on the inebriation track, which is seriously mind-blowing. Like, I'm just like so impressed with how much thought they put into this game and how well it all so meshes together. It's really amazing. You're going to, if you buy beers, you'll store the beer bottles, cubes here. There's cheese, so if you decide to buy some cheese, you can go up on the cheese track and you can eat the cheese to decrease your inebriation if you need to. You're going to be toasting with other people, so if you land on the same spot as someone else, you guys are going to each give up a bottle of beer from your area and toast each other. And you want to toast at least once, because if you don't toast at least once, you will have -5 points at the end of the game. There's different tracks here to go up on to get different points depending on the locations. There's different locations with that are in different shapes, not all of them, some of them. And if you happen to get to those locations, that will give you some special points. There are objective cards which you can get and store here. So when you first get to a location, if there is a bottle on that location, you will take the bottle, and those are worth points at the end of each round and at the end of the game. So the scoring is cumulative. And if there is not a bottle, but there happens to be a little coaster token, then you will take that, and those also give you end of round and end of game scoring. But again, not all the spaces will have coaster tokens, but at the beginning of the game, all the spaces will have beer bottles. So it's a really great game. You have a time track at the bottom of the main big board. I will throw up a picture because it's too big of a board for me to open right now. So it's one of those time track games where if you are last in position on the time track, you can take as many actions until you pass the first player on the time track. So it's one of those kinds of games, which I really like. Certain actions will use up time units, so you will move up a certain number of spaces depending on which action you take. Yeah, it's then, you know, the game is played over 3 rounds, 3 days. And then at the end of each round, you have your basic scoring. If you want, you can end your day early and decide you're going to sleep. And when you do that, you can trade in bottles from your backpack and get some points up here. But that will also push you up here as well. But you know, that's something you may want to do because, again, scoring at the end of each round is cumulative, and at the end of each round you score for tasted beers, you score for the coasters you have, and how many beer bottles you have from the locations you went to. Seriously brilliant game. At the end of each round, you will go back down, I think, I can't remember how many spaces now, back on the inebriated track. Yeah. At the end of the game, you know, you score your objective cards, and that's when you score what beer bottles you have. Seriously awesome game. I was super impressed. We were all super impressed. Different locations will give you different actions. So not every location will have the same action, but you do get this handy dandy guide, which shows you what actions are available in which locations. So the glass means that you can, so you can buy beer, and then the yellow one indicates what type of beer, because again, there might be some kind of set collection points if you get that objective card. These black symbols show you what kind of a special track you might be able to go up on if that brewery is of that type. And then of course there's a cheese symbol. So you can only buy cheese if you also bought beer. Yeah, but really cool game. We were super impressed with how well the mechanics went with the theme in this game. They put so much thought into this game. It's very evident. We all loved it so much. You know, there's a few little minor things I haven't gone over that you will learn if you choose to play this game. Oh, here are the coaster tokens. They are randomly selected at the beginning of the game and put out on various locations. Yeah, so that is the Belgian beers race. Highly recommend it, for sure. I think I've covered everything there. So let me move on. I'm not sure there was anything else I wanted to say about that. It comes with some expansions. We did not play with the expansion yet, but let me just show you an example of an objective card, just so you can see. So that's an example of an objective card. So this one would mean that you would have needed to go to, I believe it means you would have needed to go to that location or picked up that coaster or something like that. So yeah, so that is the Belgian beers race. And by the way, like the deluxe edition came with these coasters, which I actually use. It just happens to be sitting on my table. So yeah. Okay, I'm just going to leave this here so I don't crush Bitoku since I didn't pack it up properly. The next game I will talk about is Birdwatcher, which is currently on Kickstarter. So this is designed by Zakar Jaffrey. It is published by Oni Press. It is for 2 to 4 players. It is a hand management, push your luck set collection game with end game bonuses. So I did a 1-minute overview video for this. I really wanted to do a video for this. It wasn't a sponsored video, but I really wanted to do a video because the designer had actually reached out to me after watching one of my weekly playback videos, and it turns out we have like a very similar ethnic and religious background, like basically identical. So yeah, so that was really cool to see that there is someone else like me in the board gaming world, and he's designed a board game that's published by a big publisher. Well, I consider them a big publisher because Oni Press has like a lot of followers on Twitter, and you know, they're known for publishing comic books and stuff like that. So I mean, I think that's super impressive. So I won't go into too much detail discussing the mechanics of this game. I will link my 1-minute overview video because that like seriously covers all the mechanics in the game. I will just say that the artwork is stunning. There's, you know, a bit of a push your luck element in this game, which I really liked. You know, yes, there are other set collection games in existence. Why would you want to back this one when, you know, there's so many other set collection games? It's beautiful. I like how the theme and the mechanics mesh together really well. So for me, that's super important in a game, and I think it did it really well. Like when, you know, running into the jungle, you can imagine all the birds flying away, so you'll imagine them going to the clearing. When you take a photograph of a bird, the flash or the click of the camera is going to scare another bird in your tree, so that's why you have to discard one to the clearing, but it's startled, so then you cannot recruit it back, lure it back, not recruit it. So yeah, so I just really liked how the mechanics and the theme went together so well in this game. So that seems to be the theme so far of today's weekly playback, because yeah, so I really liked it. And I do highly recommend it. And the bird artwork is just stunning in this game. I just absolutely love the artwork. I am someone who's never played Wingspan. I know I might be the only board gamer in existence who has not played Wingspan. To be completely honest, I don't know why. It's just I love birds. I actually backed this thing called Bird Buddy on Kickstarter, which allows you to set up a camera bird feeder, and you can see which birds are feeding at the feeder on your phone with like a live feed. That's something I actually backed on Kickstarter because I'm obsessed with birds. I actually really love watching birds. I think they're just so cute, so beautiful. But for some reason, I'd never ever been interested in playing Wingspan, but Birdwatcher. So this will fulfill my need to play a bird game when I really want to play a bird game. So yeah, so there we go. So that is Birdwatcher. The next game I will talk about, which I have with me, is Morels. So Morels is a 2-player game. It is from 2012, designed by Brent Povis, published by Two Lanterns Games. This is a card drafting, hand management set collection game. You know, there's not much to say about it. It's a pretty easy, simple set collection game. You have different kinds of cards that will be in a row, and you can get some cards for free on your turn, one card for free on your turn, or you can get a bunch of cards that are in the decaying pile for free. There are some elements in this game that might make you discard a certain number of cards, so, you know, that you need to be careful of. There's like something called, what's it called? I cannot find it. Angel something, something Black Angel or something like that. That is like gonna cause your mushrooms or whatever to decay or something. So I don't know what it's called. I can't find it. Destroying Angel. So Destroying Angel is something you want to try and avoid. There's nighttime cards. So if you get a moon, you can then draw a card from the moon deck, the nighttime deck, which will give you more points. Yeah, it's just a really cute, simple game with mushrooms, set collection. You know, you might want to be careful, you know, if you're waiting for a certain mushroom, because the game will end once there are no more cards left in the row of cards to select from. So, you know, if you're waiting, you can sell cards, you can sell sets of mushrooms to get these stick tokens, which will then allow you to go further along the row of cards to pick up ones that you want. Yeah, it's just a pleasant little set collection game for 2 players. I enjoyed it. I would definitely play it again. It's, you know, not super complex or anything. It's just, you know, a light filler game for 2 people. Like if you're just, you know, if I had a partner and I was just sitting around and we wanted to play something and I didn't want to play something really heavy, I would suggest something like Morels. So yeah, so that is that. The next game I will talk about, I do not own, so I'm just going to talk about it and hopefully throw up some pictures, is called A War of Whispers. This came out in 2019. It is designed by Jeremy Stoltzfus. I think that's the name. I hope I pronounced it correctly. Published by Starling Games, the same publisher as Everdell, for 2 to 4 players. This is an area majority, like bluffing and betting game with hidden victory points and a bit of take that. I loved it. I seriously loved it. Like, you have your own player board, and at the beginning of the game, you randomly shuffle these tokens, which you then place on below your on the bottom of your player board where victory points are indicated. So it will say next to each one how many victory points you will get for that token controlling that many cities at the end of the game. So you get to peek at them. They're your own. They're secret from everyone else. And so you want to try and manipulate the factions on the board so that, you know, hopefully you can get the most points. So the far left one will be 4 points. So however many cities that faction controls, you will multiply that by 4 and, you know, get that. And then you'll do it for all the factions. And some of them will give you 0 points, and then one of them will give you negative points. So clearly, when you're playing the game, you're trying to manipulate the board in such a way that the token you have for the negative points, you will try to eliminate them from controlling any cities as best as you can. So as you're playing this over multiple rounds, it starts to become evident who has which token on the 4-point spot on their board. At the end of each round, you have the opportunity to switch 2 of your tokens, you know, switch their spots. But if you do that, you have to reveal them so that everyone knows which 2 tokens are, you know, on your board now that you switched and what victory points are associated with them. So each player has an agent, and at the beginning of the game you place agents around the board, and below each agent there are action spaces. How you place them is really strategic, because if you place them to the far right and there's no one to the left of you, you get to take all of the actions on the agent spaces to the left of you within that faction's council, and take all of them. So that is really beneficial. You know, as the game progresses, that is more and more difficult to do because more and more agents start coming out on the board. And so you are not, by the end of the board, every single space on every council is taken up by your agents and other players' agents. It's a really cool game. The various kinds of actions you can take are placing banners outside on the board. You can engage in battles and, you know, try to overtake cities. It's a really cool game. I absolutely loved it. I love area control games. Not all of them. I really like Rumble Nation, which I've discussed before. So this game, it's super cool. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Rumble Nation, but it's got like this hidden element to it, like bluffing and betting, and yeah, I just really, really loved it. I thought it was so much fun. We played a 4-player game of it. 3 of us really enjoyed it. 1 player did not enjoy it, and he said he would not elect to play this game again because he felt like he didn't really have much control over things and didn't really have a strategy going until towards the end of the game. There are cards you can win as well, which prove to be really useful. Like certain action spaces will allow you to draw some cards from certain factions' card piles, and if you like pair them together, the actions can be really powerful. So if you're able to collect a certain number of cards, you can do some pretty powerful stuff on the board. So the timing of that needs to be just right. I loved it. I would totally love to play this game again. Funnily enough, the guy who wasn't so fond of it is the one who won, and then me and another player tied in the next place, and then someone else in the last place. But I loved it. I would totally play it again. In fact, I've requested a review copy of it so that I can show you guys the board and take better pictures and stuff, but we'll see if I get one. Okay, the next game I will talk about, and I'm going to do 2 sections in one now, because this is a game I am going to cull. So the next game I will talk about is On the Origin of Species. So this is designed by Gerard Asensi and Ferran Renelius. I hope I pronounced this correctly. I know that they're European. Published by Mount Tabor for 2 to 4 players. This is a tile placement game. I backed this because the board is stunning. I absolutely love the board. It's beautiful. Let me take out the board and show you guys. It's not that big of a board, so I can show you. So this is the board. Like, I absolutely love the board. I think it's really beautiful. I had it upside down. Apologies. Okay, so on the side here, you're gonna have tiles, and you will start the game with a certain number of tiles on the board. So I'll tell you why I'm getting rid of this game. I'm actually getting rid of a number of games, but let me explain. So here you will have, there's some starting tiles, but I'll explain with this. So you're gonna have tiles on the board, and in order to get that tile, you need to have your tokens on 4 leaves and like 4 blue things. And if you get that, then you take the tile, you'll be able to collect the reward on the bottom, but you'll get 4 points, you'll get one of those 2 cards, and you will advance the beagle, which is the ship. And once the ship reaches the last spot on the board, the game will end. So the reason we didn't like this game was we just thought it was so boring, which I hate to say that, but it just like seemed like you're just putting cubes around on a board, you're moving cubes around and just placing new tiles, placing more cubes, putting out more tiles. Like, it just wasn't very thought-provoking. There just wasn't like a lot of strategy in it. Even the cards, like the abilities that the cards provided, weren't all that intriguing. Like, it just wasn't that interesting of a game. It's gorgeous to look at. I like the components. I have a bunch of extra anchors because my game came with a broken anchor, which I super glued in the end, but they sent me a whole set of another anchors, but you only need 3, and it comes with this pretty ship. The tiles are beautiful, the board is beautiful, but just did not do it for me. I thought it was just really, really boring. So that's On the Origin of Species. If you guys have played this game, let me know if maybe it's better at a higher player count. I played it at 2 players. But yeah, like, you're just putting cubes on tiles, then bringing out new tiles, putting cubes on those tiles because they will give you more of the things you need to bring out more tiles. Like, that's it. So yeah, not very intriguing. Again, it's like, I feel like the mechanics and the theme, like, by putting cubes and tiles, you're conducting research or whatever, but, it just doesn't feel like that. And then I realized I don't really need this game. I'm going to be getting the deluxe edition of Darwin's Journey, which is another Charles Darwin themed game, and that's a game I really did enjoy. It's by 2 designers who I really like. So I am selling this. If you're interested in buying it, which after my raving review, I'm sure you really want it, let me know. Maybe you want it for the pieces, I don't know. So I have it listed on BGG in case if anyone wants to buy it, let me know. So yeah, so let's go on with the culling section. So other games I'm culling. I've already culled one of them, was Oath, Chronicles of Empire in Exile. I actually did not play it at all. The reason I backed it was because I really like Kyle Farron's artwork, and the artwork just really grasped me. But I've been in need of funds lately, and I'm like, okay, I'm never gonna play this game. I know I'm not gonna play it. It's probably not the kind of game I will play. It's probably a little bit on the more complex side in terms of like war games, like, political games. Like, I really suck at Pax Pamir, which is by the same designer, Cole Whirl, but that's published by Whirlgig Games, like his own publishing company, I believe. Yeah, I've played Pax Pamir like 3 times. I seriously suck at it, so I'm pretty sure I will be no better at Oath. This is just this really big box that I just had sitting in a giant box that I was just going to take to my mom's house. And I'm like, okay, it's time for me to start culling some games because, I've spent money on games and I'm not going to play it, and I need the money and I need the space. So I already sold Oath. The other game I'm planning on selling is called Seven Fortunes. I actually played that on TTS when it was on Kickstarter. It is like a hand management kind of deck building kind of game that had, the theme is Greek mythology. I decided I will not keep it. It's a really big box. It's actually still in shrink. I actually liked it when I played it on TTS, but I'm not keeping it because, again, I have so many games and I know I probably won't ever end up playing it, to be honest. So yeah, if anyone's interested in buying Seven Fortunes, I'll leave a link to the game on BGG and you can find my listing for it. Again, it's a really heavy box, so shipping will be a little bit much. If you happen to be at PAX Unplugged and you want to buy it from me, I will bring it with me so that you can save on shipping cost. Of course, you'd have to wait a while to get it then because that won't be until December. But if you're interested in it, I'd be willing to do that and bring it with me. So yeah, so that's that. So in terms of questions, there was one question. It's do you have any game favorites do you have any game favorites to play around Halloween? Yeah, I have a bunch of Halloween themed games or, Halloween adjacent themed games that I love to play on Halloween. This year I will not be having a Halloween game night like I do every year because I'm going to Florida to visit my sister and I'll be there for Halloween actually. But I'm planning on doing a video about Halloween themed games that I like to play around this time of the year. And I will post that in the last week of October, so you can stay tuned for that video. I won't go through it right now because I'll need some content to post when I'm in Florida and not going to be able to shoot any videos there. Maybe I'll be able to shoot a weekly playback while I'm in Florida. I don't know. So I'll have one more weekly playback next Friday, and then the next Friday I'll be in Florida. So we'll see about that. But yeah, I'll have that video coming up. And actually, I didn't get any other questions, and I still did not find out about the artwork, the cost of artists. So I will still, add that to my to-do list and look into that. But I think that's it. Sorry, I'm actually really hot. My AC has been off and I'm like sitting here roasting in these lights. So yeah, so maybe that's why I went a little bit fast through this video. Yeah, because I'm hot right now. Okay, I think that's it. Well, I guess I'll leave you guys with a question. What are your favorite games to play around Halloween? I know today is I'm shooting this on a Friday, and today is the official release date of Patchwork Halloween Edition. So I had a friend going to Rochester today, so I asked him to stop by. He was going to Millennium Games anyway, so I asked him to pick me up a copy of the game if it happens to be there. So yeah, I really want Patchwork Halloween. It looks really cool. I've never played the original Patchwork, so I think it would be good for me to get it and actually finally play the game. So yeah, so that is that. I think that's it. So if you have any questions or comments, again, if you have any questions about Bitoku, please leave them in the comments below. I have Luna Capital on its way to me. It should be arriving on Monday, so I hope I'll get to play it before next Friday so I can talk about that in next Friday's video. But yeah, Devere games are definitely a hit for me right now. I mean, the Red Cathedral, Bitoku, and I've heard so many good things about Luna Capital, so I cannot imagine not liking it, so I'm super excited for that. So yeah, so why don't you guys tell me about your favorite Halloween games, and until next time, bye!